So hello, and welcome to the Sacred Science of Sound. I'm Geraldine Glass, and I'm thrilled to be welcoming from Germany David Primal and Miten to share a conversation about the healing power of sound. I first heard your music in 2012. I was in the process of separating from a long-yeared marriage and decided to go to the Blue Spirit in Costa Rica. And it was my first exposure to mantra. And the class was actually with Krishna Das. And as a result of that, I fell in love with mantra and was introduced to your music by one of the staff members there who said, if you like this, you got to hear this. And so I started with the Mula mantra and then the Gayatri mantra, and it was life-changing. Your music helped me to find a sense of peace in one of the, at that point in my life, one of the lowest moments in my life. And so I'm absolutely delighted and grateful to have you here today, and wanted to start the conversation with this subject, the healing power of music, and to ask you both, how did you first recognize that your music had a healing effect on people, and what did that feel like for you?
I was just, when you said that, I just realized that as a child growing up, I always had this feeling of being drawn to healing, and I always thought maybe I'd become a doctor or a holistic practitioner or a massage body worker, and I always had this deep, like very kind of childlike little wish in myself, like I hope I find something that's really special that heals, or something like some special, I wanted some special ability that heals, like very kind of very kind of anyway, whatever. and so then lately I thought, wow, this is what's happened. It's this, we have this gift that heals, and it's unexplainable. It's a magical thing, because it's so, you can't grasp it. You can't
like electricity.
Yeah.
You can't see it, but it's there. And there was something about our meeting back there in India when we met that was destined. Like Deva had this healing, she had healing hands, she had healing, that was what attracted me to her. She was just, you could just feel that. And for me, I'd come through music as a music business kind of life, and then came to Osho, came to the ashram, and there I could help this healer to express herself in a way that was going to reach a lot more people than an individual that you would in a session or massage session. Somehow her voice was, it was waiting to be awakened, and that's when we started to realize. You see, the music in the ashram taught us everything. It gave us an understanding of how music can heal. Before then, I thought music was to express excitement and
emotion.
And emotion, yeah. And I didn't realize there's another power of beyond the emotion, and that's what I learned in the ashram. So once I realized that music has to appear out of silence and disappear back into silence, into a deeper space than was originally experienced, I started to realize that's where the healing is, and it started to heal me. And we didn't look to do anything in a way of convincing anybody of anything. We just wanted to play this music because every time David chanted the Gayatri mantra, we were both healed. And it was not something you could argue with. It just was there, And so we've been, Deva's had the Gayatri with her since she was born. Mm-hmm. It's in her blood. So, it's all this energy waiting to somehow be awakened. That's how I felt our meeting. It was that my humble part in this is to somehow share what I've learned through being a rock musician and finding that music is much more than that, and being able to meet in an environment where meditation was the whole point. It wasn't, there was no, we were all there to learn how to be with ourselves internally in peace. And that's the only doorway there is meditation. We're all learning how to find that space, you know, and so it was a great place for us to come together.
Yeah, and to learn the music, to learn how music can enhance a space and not attract attention for itself, but just basically support a space of meditation and celebration, and to support people in a very vulnerable and open state. You know, they're coming for meditation, they're coming for healing. And then what sounds can you put in there without, you know, disturbing it, but without distracting and detracting from it.
Enhancing
it.
To enhance the silence.
Yeah, and that's such a huge learning, because it's so precious, you know. You have people sitting with their eyes closed, and the first sound you put, it's like with your bowls, you know. It's like the first when you I don't know, you strike the bowl. I think maybe, you know, you really are present and aware, like for that first contact and what sound that makes and with what intention you strike that bowl. And that was my apprenticeship. Miten had already learned that before me, because he'd been playing in the ashram for already 10 years or so. So he was in that already, and I came new. I didn't even know that I could sing. All I wanted to do was be with Miten. I didn't care what I needed to do that. So singing was just
worked for me.
Singing was, I didn't have such high ideas. I just wanted to be with him all the time, and it was kind of one way that was kind of obvious. And then I still remember, like, wow, and I still have it now, like it's such a poignant moment, that first sound in that silence, and then to let that grow, you know, in that space, and then to come back all together into the silence. And it's such a difference. Like, I feel it in our concerts now when we start in the silence in the beginning and the silence in the end. It's totally different, you know. It's both times you don't hear anything, but you can feel everybody's in it in the end, and everybody's contributing to it in such a vibrant way. And that's healing, you know, just to be in that. Like, we all long for a silence that is juicy, you know, a silence that is full of life and energy.
I think also, you know, we've kind of forgotten how to sing. I meet so many people who tell me they can't sing. You know, and that's very sad, and it's a Western trait. You know, for instance, when we were in Fiji with Tony Robbins, and Tony invited this local people to come and sing for us, and it was so touching for me to see the children were in the same choir as the older children and the adults and the old one. Everybody was singing together, and you know, everybody had a part, and you know, so for me, just, you know, when we start the concerts, the first thing that comes out of the silence that we sit in before we make any sound, we invite everybody to chant the mantra Om with Deva. So we become almost immediately there's a healing vibration in the theater. Everybody begins to chant the mantra Om. We all hear ourselves fill in this space with our voice and our voices, and immediately there's a different vibration in the room when you chant Om. I mean, it's just there anyway. So to chant it, you know, we begin our healing journey there, out of silence. Now the excitement has died down. We can sit there in quiet for a little while together. We're here, we're on the stage, and the musicians are with us. And then from that, we can move into healing. And it's not just singing, it's singing these very heavily potent Sanskrit sounds that we call words, but they're not words. So we're working with a healing sound immediately. We're not trying to say, hey, baby, you left me and I really, we're not going there. That's already, Deva doesn't emote when she sings. She doesn't emote. That's not where she comes from. She's not trying to be passionate. She just is who she is. And that comes through, that in itself is totally healing. You're an opera singer, right? You're an opera singer, so you know all about warming up your voice and opening your voice. So David never does. And I remember in the earlier days, I would say to her, you should warm up your voice before you go onto the stage. You open your voice, and she would become quite kind of dejected somehow, out of that. And then she would just walk onto the stage and sing a cappella every night. No real warm up, but just this voice comes, and that's just who it is. It's just, there's nothing special. It is special because it just comes from a depth. When I first hugged Dava, she was a 20-year-old girl. I felt that she was older than me, I felt like she was an old soul. I was hugging her, feeling, wow, she's older than me. Something in her hands and her healing hands was just was tangible, So that's where we find the healing. I've just had an open heart surgery. I've got a slip disc. I've been all around the world since April. I had a heart surgery in March. In April, we started our touring, and I've just stopped, and I'm absolutely nourished and energized. I don't feel exhausted at all. I've been healed. My heart, this whole thing, it was every time I walked on stage in America, people just gave me the full-on loving vibe. Yeah, exactly. And every night I took that into this scar, and I took this into my heart. And the same with the slip disc that happened after. It was just as soon as the tour finished, I said to David, wait a minute, I'm just walking here without any pain. I swear to God. So it's not about performance. We're not there to perform. We're just there for ourselves. This connection is what connects us to our guru, who we love with all our being, who helped us out of everything, who stood in front of the whole world for us and took everything that they threw at him. He didn't care. He was fearless. He just wanted to help humanity. And, he was a very outrageous guy. So, for me, saved my life over and over. And I know David too. So it was just, it's all healing. It's all that,
I mean, a couple of things it's interesting to talk about that, the kind of music you're doing, that there's not emotion in it. And yet when one feels your sound and your singing, it's so filled with expansiveness and it's so filled with love. That's all that I can think to describe it. You are in the vibrational frequency of love. Yes, it's not emotion like you said, hey, I lost my baby or what, whatever. It's not that. It's love. You're steeped in the emotion of love. And I wanted to ask you, like, when you are in your music, can you share with our audience, where does that come from? Do you feel in a particular place in your body that, you talked about the silence, and that the silence at the beginning where you gather yourself and you gather what's going to be expressed, and then the silence at the end is it's so profound, it's so filled with the heart of humanity after we've chanted together with you. Can you identify or share with us where you feel that? Where does that come from? Where's the source of that?
I mean, for me, basically, on a singing level, I feel like I'm like a listener, like you would be. Like I feel like I'm just listening to this voice and thinking sometimes, wow, that sounds beautiful. Like where does that come from? And I would say if I had to locate it in my body, I would mostly say I would feel it in my heart area, and like I feel a sense of openness and love, and joy and bliss. It's like a very joyful, like childlike, joyful space that is, and deep gratitude, huge gratitude to be able to experience this and share this and be part of this unfolding that happens every night when we get together with all the people who've just come to be, they're just ready for this. That's so, I find it so totally awesome, that people are now, thousands are ready to come for an evening, and they sit from the beginning. They're in silence, they're in celebration, they're in love, they're in laughter, they're in tears. We're all in this together, and we know this is what we come together for. We don't have to explain, we don't have to be embarrassed when the tears happen, or it's so beautiful that there's so many of us now that just know how to enter this space together and create it together.
And Matan, for you, can you describe where that source, that impulse, that creativity, inspiration comes from in your body?
It's just basically, the heart is non-judgmental. And that's a big key to our music. It's played with fearlessness. We don't have any we don't have anything to live up to. We're not trying to be anything other than who we are. This has been given to us. Here we come, we complete the circle, and that then we go into the space that we know so well from, we met 27 years ago. We've been in this space a long time. We met in the ashram before, 10 years before that was my apprenticeship to music that came out of silence, that was there for a purpose, a deeper purpose. And so the feeling, the thing with a guru is that it can only be love, because it's ridiculous otherwise. If you're not in that space, it's so ridiculous. But if there's love, and it's a love that it needs to be expressed, and it needs to express gratitude. So that's where the music comes from, is there's nothing else there. Everything play comes from these 27 years of us being A, grateful, and B, having some enough expertise to share it in a technical way through music. We're not pundits, and we're not technically gifted musicians, but we have something, and that something once I would have judged as not being enough, like I was saying about David's voice. Now I stop judging it. It's just what it is. And I realize you can't please everybody. And, there's people who don't like Stevie Wonder. But I cannot understand that. There are people that don't get Stevie Wonder. So what to say about two little mantra singers? We just share in our way, and that's from the heart. That's the love, and it's beyond trying to impress or anything like that. Really beyond that.
It's like your music, and then I was able to hear you for the first time at the ecstatic chant at Omega, and now I've been privileged to hear you many times live. It's like one feels the devotion, the love, the respect, the energy of cherish. There's such peace between, I was just wondering that last time I heard you now in Los Angeles, with you having just completed your heart operation, you emanate, the whole group emanates a connection, a togetherness, and just a deep peace and a deep bliss. As you said, you are completely yourselves, grounded, connected to all that is, and the music for me, flows from that space, which allows everybody in the audience to, it's what we're discussing, the healing power of music, allows everybody in the audience to touch the places perhaps that have been wounded. And when you talked about the actual physical wounds of your surgery, to feel that the music and the reflection of people singing with you actually sent healing energy. It's indescribable, this power of music, beyond our words, beyond our thinking mind.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's with these chants. It's like, again, if I go back 40 years, when I first heard that music in the ashram, I didn't know Sufi chants. I didn't know what that was. I didn't know what a mantra was. I just came from a different world, but I read a book and I just wanted in. I just thought, okay, this must be it, if this is, and it was. But what I saw there was that there's power in certain sounds. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. There's a power there, and the Sufi chanting, which Osho loved the Sufi people. He made many discourses about the Sufi path, and so we got into that kind of chanting. So all this was. Beyond, again, there was power in the sound, and I didn't have any concept of that. I didn't until Deva introduced me to the Gayatri Mantra. Really, before that, I knew there was something, but the Gayatri refined everything up until that point. Everything that I knew about chanting was right there in the Gayatri.
And do you think from the words of it, it's about connecting to the divine, the power of the sun. Do you think it's the actual words that carry the magic? How would you describe that? How would you describe how the Gayatri Mantra really goes inside you?
Yeah,
the Gayatri Mantra is a mantra that stimulates all the chakras, and especially now also this long form Gayatri Mantra that we just recorded, but also the Gayatri Mantra that most of us know. And each sound, each syllable, like on a kind of scientific level, it is said that every Sanskrit sound, which there are 50 of, vibrates one petal of our chakras. Like one petal is related to each of the 50 Sanskrit sounds. So there's the 6 chakras with those different amounts of petals, and then there's 1,000 petaled lotus as a 7th chakra. So when we chant the mantra, we are vibrating all these these petals of these chakras in a very specific scientific way. And the Gayatri Mantra is in that way very wholesome. It does that to all chakras. And the thing is, personally, I'm not so sensitive about exact chakras, and I couldn't say, oh yeah, I can feel that in this chakra and that. And that. There are people who are, like I've learned a lot from a mantra teacher called Thomas Ashley Farran. Namadeva was his name, and he's left his body some years ago. It's beautiful, and his wife is still carrying the torch and teaching. And so they're great resources for people who really feel that those fine differences between each mantra. I always see them as kind of doorways to the same space, that we just enter that space of silence and unity and peace through different doorways, and each mantra is a different doorway. Looks a little different, has a little different color, different style. Some people like the doorway of Om Shanti, because maybe peace is something in their lives that they are looking at or dealing with or not having enough of, or feel that they don't have enough of. Somebody else might enter that space through a healing mantra, because healing is, or illness is something they are facing, and that's really, taking their attention. So then they would be gravitating towards a healing mantra, and then that would take them to that same space of silence. So really, we can use whatever mantra brings us the most joy and the most expansion when we chant it. Because when we are joyful, we are in the moment, you know, then we are doing it just because we are doing it. We love doing it. We're not doing it to get somewhere, to kind of, or we don't do it and waiting that it's done or that it's over. So just, you know, I can't remember now your question, but anyway, so basically just to be very, very playful with it and sing and chant what feels nice. And then also experiment, you know, when I go deeper into one mantra, and I really do it 21 days, 108 times a day. You know, these things can help us feel one mantra more deeply and then see what happens.
Also, with that whole thing with chanting a mantra, you know, we made a couple of albums where David just chants the mantra 108 cycles. And the point of that is that, you know, you can choose, you can look at the mantras, choose the door that you want to go through. And then you just put the CD on and chant before you go to sleep every night with Deva. It takes 10 minutes, you know, it's not like all night. It's 10 minutes before you actually move into sleep, and that mantra stays with you through the night. And that's, you know, and you know, the things with the mantras, you know, they're not intellectual creatures, you know. They're the only way you're going to get to feel the power of a mantra is to make a step towards it. You know, it has to be, you have to be engaged, you have to participate, you have to contribute. You know, everybody in our concerts is there to contribute. Everybody has a responsibility, you know. And that's that kind of feeling is you know, we always come back to the healing. You know, how do you feel stress when you're in that space? You don't. So for those few hours, everybody's forgotten their stressed lives, and they are, for sure. We know. I mean, you know, life is tough, and it's fast and busy and full of everything. You know, how often do you get the chance to just sit with a couple of thousand people in the same kindred spirits, sing together, you know, sing mantras together and sit in silence? That's your community. How can you not be healed? You know, and you've just spent 3 hours and you've forgotten everything. You know, you've just been engaged and you've just been in the meditation, and you can't help but be healed, you know.
And I just see bowls again, and somehow I see every one of these bowls like a certain mantra. You know, they all have different tunings. They're out of different materials. They have different healing properties, the materials, and the mantras are just like that. And which, you know, maybe if somebody's not familiar with mantra, or for the first time, we might get a little distracted by the religious quality or Hinduism or gods and goddesses, I don't know. And really they are just sacred sounds that are medicine, sound medicine. And the gods and goddesses help us to identify and relate to those sound qualities, to those healing qualities, and remember them and have some personal connection to them. So it really feels like we were seeing all these mantras there behind. It's beautiful.
And it's so interesting. I'll choose what I'm going to play for a particular group. And it's amazing to me that the bowls always play differently depending upon who's in the room. And I'm sure you experienced that with the mantra. It's like you're creating in the moment, and it's a co-creation with who's with you. What energy shows up in the room. And of course, when you have such big groups, it must be an incredible feeling to feel them, feel you, and feel the communication that's rolling between you.
It's tantric. It's really tantric. It's sensitive. It's so beautiful to feel where people are. If they're a little shy generally, or if there's an explosion, immediately everybody wants to join. Everybody's ready, you know. So everywhere's different, and we begin with, you know, yeah.
Maybe talk a little bit. I know you have a new album, Deva, and you've mentioned it for a moment, but talk a little bit about what inspired that now. And it's a very different version of the mantra that your dad sang to you, that you grew up with, the mantra that connected you in Mitten. Would you like to share a little bit about what inspired this new album?
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of recap, when I grew up, I was taught these sounds by my parents that I didn't know were called the Gayatri Mantra. It was just something that I sang or chanted every night with my parents because I had to, you know, like there was no deeper meaning to that than that there was no choice, you know, and then when I was 10, I let it go because I had a choice. I realized I did have a choice, and then 27, I realized, wow, I had these amazing sounds in my life, and I'm so familiar with them, and wow, their potency, and now I can sing them and chant them and feel them, and now I realize, wow, there are other people who are familiar with them or are open to them. I didn't even know really there was somebody out there doing that same thing as a kid. You know, I had no idea because, of course, I'm growing up in Germany. Mm-hmm. So that's the first step. And then when we started going deeper into the mantras, you can't help but come across the long form of the Gayatri Mantra, because there are these two forms. There are two, you know, schools of thought, which one is the one to chant or which one is the more potent, and they don't agree. So then that's great, because then we can just sing both and don't have to kind of make up our minds for one or the other. And because I'm not a composer so far, I've co-composed one or two mantras together with Mitten, but really it was Mitten, and so. But secretly, just that same secret thought that I had as a child, I was thinking, oh, wouldn't it be great if the melody somehow came out of myself for this long form? I mean, it would kind of be the obvious thing, you know, it would be so nice. And tried a few times, nothing happened. And it was actually Joby, the producer, Joby Baker, who you saw in the concert in LA. He's a beautiful friend, amazing musician, great producer, who also produced Mitten's Temple at Midnight CD, which I think is your best. Mm-hmm. And he is somebody who is very, very encouraging and very non-judgmental, and just kind of give the space for things to grow and happen. And he just somehow wouldn't let me get away with saying it's just not going to happen. And through him providing some kind of soil with the sound, with the rhythm, with the key, not very much, not much of a guideline there, but somehow this melody came out of me and then molded itself into shape until it was just clear it was finished. And I didn't know that, because I'm not a composer, I haven't had that experience of that process, that at some point it's just ready. And you don't anymore think, should I change it or should it be changed? It's just ready. And also it's somehow, I don't know if you feel that, it just kind of removes itself from you and it's not anymore yours. It's just, that's it. You know, like, okay, this is just the melody that is meant to be, at least that I'm meant to sing with this mantra.
Yeah.
Do you feel that like that with your songs?
Yeah. Yeah. You don't know, they just come.
Yeah.
And they're, you know.
So that was so now I found this vehicle for this mantra to share it and to sing it together. And it's so, I see these very kind of, actually the colors I see are exactly the colors that are of your bowls, these kind of pastel, exactly like those colors. That's somehow what that mantra feels like to me. And we made a beautiful version. Joby has a very, very amazing sense of harmony, which goes beyond my understanding of harmony. So he added these harmonies that make it very, very effervescent and very kind of, you know, sparkly and rich. And
without any self-consciousness, you know.
you know, again, without distracting, you know, like, because that's also, again, the fine line.
It's fun.
And so that's a big cornerstone of the album. We actually have 2 versions on it. And then there are just beautiful mantras like Maha Mantra for the first time, which is with a melody that Mano's aunt brought from Nepal to America and into our hearts. So that's so beautiful to sing this ancient Nepalese melody of the Maha Mantra. And yeah, so it's also another very powerful chant is Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. Do you want to say something about that?
Oh, yeah, it is. It's a Buddhist mantra, and it's actually close to our hearts too, because we used to chant it before and after our day's work in the ashram and in the communes that we were in. So it's just a beautiful piece that we remember from those times.
And that honors the Buddhas, the awakened ones, the teachings, and the Sangha, the community, which is really our, you know, that's our life, is that feeling of community and connectedness.
So we bow to the teachings and the family and the teacher. And then there's also a great piece that we heard. I think David knew it. I think, but the first time I heard this, it's a song. It's not a mantra, but it's. I heard it on YouTube. It was George Harrison was playing it with Ravi Shankar, Maestro Ravi Shankar, and it was Ravi Shankar had composed it, and it was such a beautiful moment with the 2 of them singing and playing this thing. It was the first time I heard it, but it ended up David wanted to chant this, you know, to sing this. So we have a Ravi Shankar composition with his daughter Anushka playing her sitar with us, and it's really nice. So yeah, they're all labor, you know, it's a labor of love, really, you know, and they really are, you know, in a way like our children, you know, they're conceived in love, and they're born in the studio, and we put clothes on them and the CD covers, and then we send them out into the world, and they bring their own friends back to us, you know, and they bring their friends home, and so it's the way we see them. And this particular one is beautiful. It's very beautiful. What I like so much about it, there's no synthesizers, there's no numerical things going on that are not really sound. You know, they're real. Every instrument moves air. It's a real instrument, and it's a totally different feeling than a digital. So you just get the warmth and the you kind of get the real essence of the instrument, you know.
I know there's something about when you feel it's the real deal. Somehow there's something about that touches also in a very different way.
Yeah, that's it. It's a real deal. There's nothing flashy going on there at all. No, but it's so deep. So I tell you that after my surgery, I had a real deal having to just deal with the trauma of the body. You know, the body was traumatized, and so I had things like I couldn't sleep, and so I had to work on let the body tremble, let the body shake, and let the body cathart as much as it needed to release the trauma. And one night in particular, I was so out of my head with it. I was just all night long crying, screaming, and really I just had to let it all go. And eventually they were put on the 7 chakra Gayatri just before dawn. And after a whole night of really intense catharsis, we put the Gayatri mantra on, and it just felt like perfume in the room. It felt like, you know, it was my vision was of pink rose petals kind of drifting down, and we just cuddled up together, and we just drifted off to most precious sleep with the Gayatri. And after this night of intensity, and we woke up in the morning with the sun shining through the windows, and we felt like a new day, a new birth. I felt like that was my birth into this again with the Gayatri mantra. It's connected so many, like for instance, David chanted the Gayatri to her father when he was leaving the body. The last thing he heard was David chanting the Gayatri, and that was the one he gave her to come in. And so many people now have told us, oh yeah, we chanted the Gayatri through the birth, or oh, I chanted the Gayatri for my father when he left, or my mother. We hear it over and over again, and it happened to me in this new birth. It was the Gayatri. It's so powerful, so beautiful, so benevolent. And we're not scholars. We haven't. What was the word? Practice? No, what's the word what do you do?
Practitioner?
Yeah, no, when you chant the Gayatri, or what was it? What was Sri Shankar? Initiation, yeah. We haven't been initiated into anything. It's not that we have any supreme knowledge or intellectuality about it. We just feel it and we've seen it. I had to say this once to an Indian pundit. I said, no, we haven't been initiated. But it doesn't mean to say that the Gayatri is way more powerful than that, way more powerful than whether you've been initiated or not. As soon as you start chanting it, it's like rubbing the lamp of the genie, and the smoke and the mantra comes out, and then you just hang on, and wherever it's going to go, you just go with it. That's how we play the music. We just rub the genie until it comes out, and then off we go.
But it's great. Like music is it's this language that's beyond any understanding. And I know when my son passed away 3.5 years ago, I turned to music in a way that I'd never experienced it. And I played your music over and over and over every day. I would get up, put your albums on, go to bed, get up, put your albums on. There was something that would just put me in a state of, I guess, being able to go inside, feel the pain, and have a space and a structure to dissolve. Mm-hmm. Your music helped the grief to dissolve. Like that's held a space for that. And I am so wanting that people that don't know your music and don't know you yet, and also that do, to know this deeper healing power, this power that when we're really talking about life and death or about trauma in the body, whatever it is that people are struggling with, and we all have our things, that there is a space we can turn to that for certain you too are holding. You're holding this amazing space for humanity. And as you said at the beginning, David, it's not like something you know necessarily you dreamed about that, and yet that unfolded, had an intention to be healing, to bring healing energies to the planet, whether it was through your hands or and look at what's grown and blossomed and what you both are contributing to humanity. It's I don't know where I would have been if I couldn't put that music on my CD player and just sit in that, and sit in that feeling of being embraced in a blanket of love, in a blanket of bliss, in a blanket of peace, in a blanket of something bigger than my human suffering in those moments.
That's huge. I mean, when I hear that, I feel like that's worth. Like if we just made the music for you, that would have been enough, and that's so incredibly touching.
I mean, I heard you say in an interview that at least 10 times people have said to you that they were deeply depressed and thought about leaving the planet, and your music changed that. It's like, I just, because you're very modest and you say, oh, we're not these fabulous musicians. It's not about that. What we're talking about is something so primal and so connected to the soul of each of us. This ancient remembering of who we are on the soul level. It's not about, if I know what chord progression it is, or if I know if I can talk about the harmonics, or what. It has nothing to do with that.
It doesn't. But the more you refine those issues, the more fine the experience we've found too. Now we're playing with really fine musicians who've got soul. They're soul musicians. They're not intellectually connected. They're in there, but they're excellent. They're really excellent people. So we're refining also. Our journey is not ended. We're still a work in progress.
It better not have ended.
We're doing our best.
I know, and sometimes when I thought about having a discussion with you both, and Dave, thinking about, here's this American who got impassioned by German music, great classical German music, and fell in love with Beethoven and Brahms and Bach and Mozart, and came to your home to develop that and to be an instrument that was expressing that. And you went to India and embodied that music. And what is that? What are those urgings of our souls that we follow and that led you both to the ashram, led you both to meet each other, to co-create, what one of you could not do alone? It's the magic of life, the blessing. And I too feel so blessed to have music as a way of life.
Yeah. Well, there's your answer. That is what it is. It's a mystery. It's a mystery. We don't need to know. We just need to sing and dance.
And pardon?
And let the rest take care of itself.
Yeah. And I love what you said with, people come that say, I can't sing, and suddenly they're enveloped in the energy of your concerts, and suddenly they're opening their throats and these sounds are coming out that change the vibrational frequency of their bodies. It's incredible.
It's a safe place, unless you're sitting next to somebody who's really singing out of tune all the time. But that's also okay. All is welcome, But mainly, you really don't have to be Pavarotti to sing a mantra. It's like 2 or 3 notes. It's easy. Once you start to relax, you can soon find your way in there. I've seen it. But I also see many people damaged by their childhoods being told they can't sing. That's really sad.
So you're changing that one concert at a time, one new baby dressed up in a beautiful album cover at a time. Whether people start singing in the privacy of their home or in their car, or whether they come to one of your concerts and then experience that being connected to such a large group, it's singing is the most natural thing. It's like what you said when you were traveling and there were children and grown-ups in a choir. It's the language that connects us all. It's natural. It is who we are. Thank you so much for the song that you inspire in all of us, and that you gather us all together to sing the song of creation and to bring healing to the world, to humanity. It's an honor to share this conversation with you. And I thank you very much for your time and your love.
Thank you, my love. That's beautiful. Shall we ask David to sing a mantra for us?
Yes. Yes.
7 seconds about you.
Oh, really?
Just sing it for us.
Sat Turvarinyam Pargodiva Syadimai Dio Yona Prachodaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
May you both always be filled with light and with love, the same that you give to us.
Thank you, my love.
Mm.
Thank you, Geraldine.